Good morning from St. Petersburg, Florida. You're looking at a picture of the waterfront. It is October 9th. It's 10:06 a.m. in the morning. It should be I.m. in the morning. But you're looking at a nice shot of St. Petersburg. Let me get this fixed up here a little bit. Like that. And I have to change this around a little bit. Like this. And like that. Whoops. Okay, we're set. There's a nice shot from St. Petersburg. Beautiful weather this morning. We had the dodo birds out on our front yard. I don't know if that's their name, but they've got long legs and kind of like pink feet. Usually they're white, but these ones kind of had brown feathers this morning. I don't know if they're going through some changes, if they're baby dodo birds, but they're an odd looking bird. They've got a great big long hooked beak, but one of them only had one leg working, kind of like he had a broken leg or something. So he had to fly across. He wasn't able to walk that well. So let's check the weather. Let's see what's going on in the weather this morning. Let's do some changing here to here. Just trying to wake up a little bit here. And there we got some weather. Let's check it out. Seattle, Washington is 59 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 57 degrees. Hayward, California, 60 degrees. Tokyo, Japan, 68 degrees. San Antonio, Texas, 77 degrees. Toledo, Ohio, it's 49 degrees. In Los Angeles, California, it's 68 degrees. Denver, Colorado, 52 degrees. St. Petersburg, Florida is 79 degrees. Corpus Christi, Texas is 81 degrees. San Francisco, California is 59 degrees. Tampa, Florida is 80 degrees. Charlotte, North Carolina is 66 degrees. New York, New York is 59 degrees. Santa Fe, New Mexico is 50 degrees. Amsterdam, Netherlands is 64 degrees. Santa Rosa, California is 50 degrees. Gaza is 81 degrees. Tel Aviv, 81 degrees. And Jerusalem is 81 degrees. Hilo, Hawaii is 75 degrees. Rotterdam, Netherlands, 64 degrees. Hong Kong, China, 82 degrees. And Ferguson, Missouri is 59 degrees. I haven't heard too much from Hong Kong, China. They had a big old whoop-to-do there for a minute. And then they kind of backed off, slowed down, must have come to some agreements, and that's good that they didn't kill each other or kill 1,000 Chinese people. So that's good news. That and if they did, maybe they closed all the media down. Who knows? China does what it wants to do. It's a sovereign country, and Hong Kong belongs to China. So maybe they worked it out. And China is going in a different direction. It's not going to kill its people to get its way. Maybe it's going to negotiate with its people, and that's good news. That's good news for the world that they're learning to negotiate instead of kill each other. So let's check out what's happening in the chats. See what's going on in the chats this morning. Just checking my buttons and knobs and making sure we're live. Syrian Freedom, 11 viewers. Dissenters, 3 viewers. Dissenters Information Network, 4 viewers. Artstarzz.com, no viewers that we know of. Live on the Other Possibilities Network, 9 viewers. And the Rundown Live, 13 viewers. Site chat. Nothing new this morning. So that's it for the chatters. Nothing's really going on. They're not saying anything new. I checked them earlier and nothing has really changed. They're not reporting anything new and exciting. But yesterday I was watching Norman Goldman, and he said that the XL pipeline may have been stopped. It is going to go through Canada instead of the United States. That Canada is tired. They said the Canadians are tired of fooling around and fighting with the Americans. Well, I guess it's the Americans that they're fighting with. They're tired of all the hassle to put that pipeline through the United States. So they're just going to run along Canada. Good. Let them run along Canada. Let them keep all that bullshit up into Canada. And keep it out of the United States. Yeah, they wanted to run it right past the dumb old Americans, because that's what they think about America. And it turns out that a lot of people think that the Americans that we're a bunch of dummies. I see it in the chat all the time. Oh, them dumb Americans. We hear it all the time. How dumb Americans are. And then they turn right around, and when they have a problem, the first people they run to is them dumb Americans. Well, maybe us Americans aren't as dumb as they think. I also seen something that Turkey was sitting on the border and just letting ISIS take over one of the towns and saying, "Where's America? America's got to get in there and stop ISIS. They're taking over this town. They're getting closer and closer to Turkey," instead of getting there and fighting for Turkey. And that's the way that the people of the Middle East are becoming. They're expecting that anytime there's a problem or something happens, that the United States or the world has to step in. Them dumb Americans got to get over here and send their kids to fight and protect us. For what? Let them protect themselves. Let them protect themselves. It's also being reported that we have Apache helicopters fighting in, I think it's Syria. I don't know about Iraq, but I think that they have those Apache helicopters flying in Syria. That's not too far from boots on the ground. They also showed that ISIS had knocked out two other helicopters, I believe they're two Russian-made helicopters from Syria that were shot out of the sky by ISIS. I think what should happen is that, we should just step back. Just step back, let ISIS take over, and then decide if we're going to step in and take over whatever ISIS took over, but just take it over. Not give it back to anybody. Let it be part of America. And then build a base there, or several bases. Put 100,000 troops or so. Whatever we think we're going to need. I think, the United States military isn't as big as people think it is. It's not very big at all. I think they said it's 1% of the population, which would be, I think, about 3 million people in the military, the United States military. And we have problems all over the world. And people just aren't getting that. We can't just drop 100,000 here and 100,000 there and not get anything out of it. This saving the people is bullshit. What Iraq did with the money and the arms that we left them pretty much shows how the Middle East feels about the United States. We armed Iraq. And instead of fighting, they just dropped their guns and ran. They did that in Syria too. When ISIS showed up, they just dropped their guns and ran. And then ISIS, you got to give them credit. You might not like them, but you got to give them credit. They picked up the guns. I don't know how many movies I've seen, whether it be cowboys and Indians or whatever, that these people are fighting each other. It's just a movie. It's make-believe. But they're in there fighting each other, and then when they overtake their enemy, they don't pick up them guns. They just let them sit. And I just think to myself, man, pick up them guns. Get them guns. Get them bullets. Get that ammunition. Well, ISIS does that. When they come in and they take something over, you see they've got tanks. They've got all kinds of stuff. Them people just didn't drop a pistol. They ran away from tanks. And if they would have had airplanes and helicopters, they would have did that too. Maybe they need an ISIS in their world. Maybe they need that strong hand to control that region. And then what we have to do is figure out a way to deal with ISIS. They said as bad as Iraq is, it wasn't that bad when Saddam Hussein was in control. And people said, oh no, Saddam was killing the Sunnis, I think, or one of those religions by the thousands. Well, they're being killed by the thousands now. I think it's close to 300,000 in Syria that have been killed. They're thinning out the herd. I don't know what the age group in Syria is, but in Gaza it was around 18. That's what you're fighting. 18-year-olds, and they're saying that these are the force to deal with. They are the best equipped, the smartest, the best ever in the world. Other than the United States. Well, of course they're going to say other than the United States. They want us in there cleaning that mess up. They're saying, talking about beheading and, some of the things that go on. But shit, that happens in Africa, that happens in South America, that happens all over the world. They aren't special. And now we see that Canada is taking its oil and it has to run it through its own country. The Americans aren't as dumb as people think. The American people knew that that wasn't oil for us. That oil was just for a few people, like the Koch brothers. It was going to go to a refinery in Texas, and then it was going to be shipped overseas to possibly, Ukraine, China. That's what was going to happen to that oil. Well, let them run it through their country and dirty their country. Beautiful Canada. Let them do that. Do they even have an army to protect themselves? If whoever they're dealing with gets pissed off, do they? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. But what I do know is it's not our problem. And, a lot of people are saying, well, if somebody takes over Canada, that's going to affect the United States. Nobody's going to be taking over Canada any more than anybody's going to be taking over Mexico, who isn't there already. Who isn't there already in Canada? They say Canada is owned by the United States anyway. That sounds right to me. I pretty much think that. I don't even know if Canada has a military to protect itself. I mean, what does Canada have? They have that ugly old tar sands oil. That's all they have as far as I know. What else does Canada have? A good health system? There's Canadians in these chats all the time. They don't talk about how wonderful Canada is. They talk about how messed up America is. And they'll say, yeah, we're from Canada. Well, what is Canada doing? Nothing. That's why we talk about America. You see people like in Syrian Freedom, they want some kind of peace to come to the Syrians. But they're not Americans. They're people from other countries talking about what America should do. And then you'll get some dumbass American get in there and, just like Americans are joining ISIS, get in there and say how messed up America is. America has to clean up its own yard for a while. We've got the elections coming up. This is our chance to clean America up, get the Republicans out, take control of our money. Start taxing those mega rich people. They're saying that a lot of these companies are starting to move back to the United States. Well, I'll tell you what I think about that. I think the reason they're coming back to the United States because our President Obama, is saying, you know what? If you take your company out of the United States, you don't want to pay taxes to the United States, protect yourself. because we aren't sending our military to protect you. And they're starting to get it. They're starting to get the idea that they're not protected around the world anymore. That would be the only reason for, and I'm talking a big company, not some little glass-blowing company that moves. I'm talking about a big company like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or IBM or Apple. Big companies, big corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations, General Motors, Ford, any of these big American companies and banks, whatever, that are moving out of the United States to save themselves a couple of bucks and then expect the United States to go and protect them. Like these oil companies like ExxonMobil, Shell. I don't know if Shell is an American company anymore. A lot of these oil companies that, like Shell, I think are owned by Venezuela and other countries. But they expect, even these smaller countries expect the United States to protect them from, say, being invaded by Russia or China. Like the Ukraine got invaded by Russia. They expect the United States to send its military to that region and protect them. And President Obama says, I don't think so. You're going to have to kick out a little bit more cash than you have been kicking out. And if you think you're so smart by evading our taxes, we're going to show you just how smart you really are by not letting you use our military to protect you from some of these people like ISIS. So ISIS is out there. They're running crazy. They're capturing oil wells and robbing banks. They're starting to talk about that ISIS has like billions of dollars. Not to mention some of these countries that are supposed to be our allies, like Kuwait and Qatar, are financing them and giving them money. Maybe they're giving them money so that they don't mess with them. They're buying them off, saying, hey, stay away from here. What do you need? Well, whatever you're invading these countries to get, we'll give to you. You don't have to come here and mess everything up. What do you need? We'll just give it to you. You need some money? Here's some money. What do you need? A couple of million? A couple of billion? What do you need? We'll give it to you. We make that in an hour. We'll give it to you. So ISIS doesn't bother them. It's extortion. That's what it is. It's extortion. But when these companies move into the Middle East, and mainly you can think about oil. There's no other reason for you to be in this desert. It's oil, mainly. If you get into these countries and you were used to the United States protecting you, why? Because we had a Republican government. We had a Republican president. And if you messed with a so-called, and I call them so-called, American company, they had the might of the United States military behind them. Well, we got a Democrat president now, and he's saying, no. You're going to pay your part. You're going to pay your part. And if you don't want to, if you figured out a way to beat the system, if you figured out a way not to pay taxes to the United States of America on the profits that you make because the United States of America, because you're waving our flag and you're under our protection, you're not going to pay any taxes? You think you're smart? I think they're playing with somebody who's smarter, President Obama. He's saying, nope, I can't do this, but I can do this. And he pulls the military away. He pulls the military out. Well, President Obama wanted to stay in Iraq and protect them companies. President Bush is the one that signed the papers to get us out of Iraq. And President Obama just went through, and he tried to talk to that knucklehead, that president of Iraq, and that president of Iraq thought he was something. He says, nah, we don't need you anymore. Greedy. There was probably a price that they were paying for us to stay. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to start making all kinds of rules. They did the same thing in Afghanistan. President Obama wanted some legal issues resolved. In other words, they couldn't prosecute our military, and the government said no. If your soldiers commit a crime, then they're going to be prosecuted. And President Obama said, okay, well, we're out of here then, and left. There's still like 10,000 troops in Afghanistan. We aren't completely gone yet, but I think by the end of this year, we will be. And they're back to square one, having to deal with the Taliban or whoever they're fighting with in Afghanistan, because we're pulling the military out. We're pulling the protection out. Kind of like the mafia. We'll protect you, but it's going to cost you. And I agree with that. We shouldn't be out there doing shit for free. We shouldn't be out there just saying, okay, we're going to save your people from themselves because they're too afraid to pick up a gun and fight. They're too afraid. They'll be murdered. Well, of course they'll be murdered. It's called war. It's fighting for your country. The world isn't doing that anymore. That game is over. The world is starting to see, you know what? You're just in our way here anyway. If you're not going to protect your own country, you can't expect the United States or Europe to protect you anymore. Not with its lives, not with its children. You can't expect that anymore. They want us in there. They want us in there protecting them. And the American corporations want us in there too. That's why the Republicans are so upset. Like I said, Lindsey Wagner or whatever his name was, that senator, and McCain, they're about to have a fit. They're about to have a heart attack because President Obama isn't doing what they think he should be doing, which is protecting them corporations. President Obama says let them protect themselves until they figure out a way to start paying some taxes. Somebody's got to pay for that military, and the military isn't protecting the people of the United States, so why should the people of the United States pay for that military? Isn't that what the Republicans say about people on welfare and food stamps? Of which would be the people that end up fighting in some of these places? Oh, the Republicans messed up. They didn't figure that President Obama would do what he's doing. They didn't figure that he would get involved in the game. He tried to tell them, if you don't do something, I will. And they didn't figure all of it. They didn't figure exactly what he meant all the way through. You know, they thought that he was going to do some executive order and get some little things like he did for the Dreamers. They didn't expect him to pull back the military, and he can do that. They didn't expect him to force them to make decisions when it comes to war. They didn't expect that. Congress can finance the military, but if President Obama says we ain't going, there's nothing Congress can do. President Obama still has to direct that military to be there. And if he doesn't direct them to be there, it doesn't matter what laws Congress passes. The president is in charge of the military. And there goes all of them billions of dollars. They just see it every day just going down the drain. That's why the Republicans were so freaked out when Saddam Hussein started to light them oil wells on fire when we were fighting for Kuwait, along with the fact that he was lighting the world on fire. He was polluting the whole world. They could see that from satellites, what he was doing. So Canada has to send their oil, keep their filthy oil in their own country. Canada has to do that. They didn't win. Giant corporations didn't beat down the people. And that's what happened. So now they have to pump them. I'm just curious as who's going to pick up the cost, or what are they going to do with that pipeline? Are they going to still continue to pump oil through it, but a cleaner oil? Is that what they're going to do? The big problem was that tar sand was kind of like sandpaper in that, there's always problems with it. As it goes through that pipeline, it eats up the pipe. Sandpaper. And eventually it's going to leak. They know that. Eventually it's going to leak. But for now, or here in the future, we're not going to have to worry about the XL pipeline. And that was the people. All kinds of people. The Indians, Native Americans, whatever you want to call them. They didn't want that stuff running through their land. How can they do that? That's their land. You can't do that to a reservation. Well, I guess they were trying. They were figuring out a way that, hey, you know what? This is going to happen, like it or not. No, it isn't going to happen, and we don't like it. And it didn't. So far, it hasn't. And it looks like Canada is backing off. And, that's just a corporation. It isn't the Canadian government. It isn't the American government. These are private citizens fighting private citizens and using our government and our laws against each other. That pipeline didn't belong to the Canadian government, but it was going to go over private land that belonged to people that they were using eminent domain. They were using eminent domain to let that happen. So that's good news. And one of the things about good news, it's just as boring as hell. Because I noticed in the chats nobody is talking about it. Maybe they'll talk about it tomorrow. Maybe they don't know yet that that the battle has been won for now. There's some victory there. There's a crack in their armor. And the Canadians are backing down. And I mean Canadian corporations, which are actually American corporations. The biggest player in this turned out to be the Koch brothers, was going to make billions of dollars on this. Koch brothers are in the oil game. So they were going to make a bunch of money on this. A lot of Americans were going to make a bunch of money and a lot of Americans were going to lose on it as they went over the aquifers, some one of the biggest aquifers in the United States. They were going to go right over it. How did they, what in their thinking made them think that that was going to happen? And it looked like it was. They went about building that pipeline like, hey, this is going to happen, get used to it. And a lot of them were actually saying that, get used to it, this is going to happen. Went about buying up land and bribing people and not telling them the full truth. Telling them that, if you don't take this money now, we're going to get eminent domain and you ain't going to get as much money. This much money is going to be taken off the table, so take this now or take less later. But our pipeline is coming through here. And we're going to use eminent domain. And they did. They used our own laws against us. A foreign country used our laws against us. And I say us because it was Americans and it was in America. It was America that they were doing it to. So I say us. That could have happened to me. Something could come right through, my front yard or my backyard. Maybe they might want to knock down my house and build something here. And I don't like it, but they use eminent domain to do it. Maybe they want to widen this highway in front of my house. And they decide that these rows of houses down in through here have got to go. Maybe they want a great big highway to continue running right through, and it's going to go right through this neighborhood. And these houses have to go. And they do eminent domain. They want to widen it to 4 lanes, maybe. It's 2 lanes now. Well, it's 4 lanes now, little lanes. But the lanes that we have here are combined are probably about as big as one lane on the highway. So they'd have to widen all this and take our houses out of here and use eminent domain against us. It can happen anywhere. But what they did to them people turned out to be illegal. And they took them to court and they stopped them. And there was Republicans involved in the government that was making sure that they couldn't stop them. But them Republicans weren't as smart as they thought they were. And they didn't expect Republicans to turn on them the way they did, because that's who they were messing with. They were messing with Republicans. They didn't go through a bunch of land that the Democrats owned. They went through ranchers and stuff like that that were Republicans. And guess what? The first thing they said, I won't be voting Republican this time around. And you get one Republican to turn, and he goes on and she goes on to explain why they no longer want to be Republican. They may not want to be Democrats, but they'll become independents and vote against the Republicans and try to rebuild the Republican Party that way. But as it stands, the last time I looked at the news last night, XL Pipeline has hit a bump in the road. And, everybody has always known that wasn't going to be used for America. When the Republicans were trying to sell it to the American people, they were making it look like this is good for America. Dragging that shit oil right over our water supply. Making it look like it was a good thing. It was good for us. And them dumb Americans, boy, I'll tell you, them dumb Americans didn't let it happen. And that's a good thing. But you get good news like that, and it's not celebrated. Get some bad news, and people will harp on that bad news forever. I see it in the chats all the time. People not talking about good news for very long. And XL Pipeline, stopping the XL Pipeline is a big deal. It's a victory, even if it's only temporary. And until it's actually shut down and, those pipes are rotting where they sit or being removed for scrap metal or whatever, or running water through them or something, that the people can live with running through that pipeline. Something that if it leaks, it won't hurt the water supply. Something like that happens. I don't know. That's a lot of money that got laid down there that is not going to be used the way they wanted it to be used. It's my understanding that some of the parts of that pipeline, is already running some oil through it, a better, higher quality of oil, but it's running oil through it. And that part isn't actually going over the aquifers. But that's good news that the XL pipeline has been delayed or been, might be permanently stopped. Let them clean their own oil in their own country. And when something goes wrong, let them deal with what went wrong. It's the same thing. We've got the same problem with the trains. The trains that are hauling some of this oil are crashing all the time in the United States. And now they figure another 6 or 7 years, they're going to have a better train. I guess a crash-proof train or something. I don't know. They're already doing it in Canada. Canada says, no, you can't even have these kind of trains in Canada. But the rich businessmen, and it's my understanding that might even be Warren Buffett. A lot of them trains belong to Warren Buffett. You can't have them in Canada, but you can have them in the United States. And Canada didn't want that pipeline to run through Canada, but they wanted it to run through the United States. Well, that's good news. It was stopped. And then the coal. Coal is a big problem. I guess the United States government has, kicked out billions of dollars to the new power plant that's supposed to kick out clean pollution. That's about the only way to describe it, clean pollution. But it's turning out not to be what they're saying it is. It's actually costing more energy to produce clean energy. Kind of a crazy situation. But coal is on its way out too. Got different parts of the country that they're all happy that you can still mine coal. They have the coal. They don't want nothing to happen to that industry. They don't care how it pollutes the air. They don't care how many people it kills. They don't care if it pollutes the water. That's their money you're talking about. You talk about their money, they're going to be pissed off. Yeah, they're going to be pissed off if you stop coal. Even if you build clean coal plants, they're going to be pissed off. If you stop the coal industry, that's where McConnell is in Kentucky. That's what they're fighting about. And you've got some of these Democrats. This kind of pisses me off a little bit. Is that these Democrats, and they're saying it. I never see the Democrats actually saying it. It's always some newscaster or some commentator or some talking head say, oh, the Democrats don't want to be seen with President Obama. I never see a Democrat saying it. No, I don't want to campaign with President Obama. That guy, boy, he's poison. I don't want to be seen with him. It's some talking head that says that. Oh, the Democrats, they don't want to be seen with President Obama. That's what they say. And, that kind of bothers me. I remember when Al Gore did that with President Clinton. And look what happened to him. I think that if a Democrat is saying they don't want to be seen with President Obama, they shouldn't be elected. That's what I think. But on the other hand, I think any Democrat, any bad Democrat, is better than a Republican. We can't have them Republicans in there, no way, no how. But come November, and them days are getting closer and closer, there's a big countdown. This is going to be a very, very important election. And we'll see if the American people are affected at all by the events. There's a lot of things that's happened since the last election that happened because of the people that got voted in. The government got shut down. There was a lot of stuff that happened. We had to deal with the XL pipeline, the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan. Corporations getting rich while people are getting poor. Making corporations people. Women's rights under attack. Voting rights under attack. A lot of things happened because the Republicans got voted in. But does it affect the majority of the people in the United States enough to get out and vote? Enough to change that 57%, even if you could change it to 45%. That is a big number. That's a lot of people. And my guess is that them are Democrats, potential Democrats, that are thinking, the Democrats that vote, they can handle this, they got this. We don't need to get involved. They do need to get involved. You can't say my vote doesn't matter. You can't say that they're the same, Democrats and Republicans. You can't say that after watching what's been going on. How Congress in the House just wasted millions and millions of dollars like on Benghazi, trying to change Obamacare, trying to fight with the IRS and all the little things that they wasted millions of dollars doing. But did it affect the majority of the American people enough that they're going to get out and vote? They said there was a 30% rise in registrations in Ferguson. I think registration is over now. Now you can start to get an idea of how this election is going to go. You don't need the polls anymore. If X amount of Democrats are registered and X amount of Republicans are registered, you can see which way this fight is going to go. It's not a guarantee because Republicans can jump the fence, Independents can jump the fence, and Democrats can jump the fence. There's no guarantee that because there's more Democrats than Republicans that the Democrats are going to win. There's no guarantee. Until the day that we vote on November 4th, until that day is over and all the votes are in and counted. Then you know. But because there's more Democrats doesn't necessarily mean that the race is over. You've got a rough idea it's over. If the Democrats vote for Democrats, then you know that, okay, we got it. We won. We made a change. We've had enough of the Republicans. They've been on the TV every day. I don't care what part of the world you live in. If you're an American, you know what the Republicans are doing. And every vote counts. But I think it's too late to register. So now it's up to the people who are registered to vote the right way. That's what it's about. But we can see that things can be changed, that you can fight corporations, and all you have to do is vote. These corporations are able to do what they do because they have certain control of certain parts of our government. And they want all of it. And we'll just see if they get it. But even a lot of Republicans are saying, and have been saying for a while now, is that we've got to quit nominating the crazies. But then them are the only ones that'll run. Rich Republicans with any sense don't want their name on any of this shit. I hear Donald Trump is filed for bankruptcy. His 4th time, something like that. Google it. Use the Google and see what Donald Trump is up to. But he's an example of a Republican, a big mouth Republican, who is falling. And they're going to start falling. And if the Republicans get voted out, or they are no longer the majority, more of these rich Republicans are going to fall. Because what they're doing is illegal. But they're protected by the Republicans in the government. If the Republicans are no longer the majority in the House, all these corporations that are able to do what Burger King is doing and just have their headquarters in Canada, for example, and then not have to pay taxes on their profits, well, that'll stop. At least in theory. The Democrats aren't going to have that. But, you know, they'll be in control. They'll have power. And that means that, you know, people with money are going to go after them Democrats. Them Democrats that have an important vote, a swing vote. They're already talking about how important this guy in Kansas is going to be. The power he is going to have if the voting goes a certain direction. Say, for example, that the Republicans have 50 senators in the House, and this guy's an independent, and there's 49 Democrats. This guy becomes very powerful in every vote. He is very, very powerful. This guy from Kansas, guess where he's from? He's from the hometown, a home state of the Koch brothers. He is very, very important. It wouldn't take nothing to give this guy $1 billion. Of course, once somebody has $1 billion, that's going to be easy to see, and people are going to want to know where you got that money. $1 million, suddenly you've got $1 million. It's hard to hide. You can't just hide $1 million. Suddenly you've got all this money. You've got to be able to answer where you got that money from. People think it's really easy. Oh, they're bought and paid for. They're in the pockets of the rich. Well, you just can't get $1 million and not have to answer where you got it from. It's not that easy to bribe these people and get away with it. Look at McDonald in Virginia, that governor. They took him down because he had a Rolex watch worth, I don't know, $10,000 or whatever it was worth, $100,000. A Rolex watch. The use of a car from a rich person. He paid for a wedding, some wedding things for his daughter got paid for. Yeah, you find people running around all the time talking about how politicians are bought and paid for, but you know what? You have to tell people where you got that money from. It's hard to hide $1 million. If you can't hide a Rolex watch, how in the hell are you going to hide $1 million? It's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to get money like that. So they give it to the campaigns, yeah. And you become a congressman or a senator. You can buy off a judge. But then the other side is going to be looking at it. And they're going to be saying, well, where'd you get this money from? Next thing you know, you're being investigated by a grand jury. And the next thing you know, you're in prison. Like Rob Bogolovich and his fancy hair. It's not as easy as people think to be bought and paid for. It's not that easy. We think of it as, okay, well, he probably got $1 million to vote that way. We think of it like that. It's not that easy. Drug dealers, for example, they make all of this money. Not only do they have to smuggle the drugs in, but they have to smuggle the money out. And then the government figures out a way to track that and shut that down. Shut that money supply down. It's not as easy as people think to get stuff illegally. Because what's the point in having money if you don't spend it? All of a sudden you're a guy making, let's just say they make $120,000 a year or something like that. Let's just say that. And then all of a sudden, you're a congressman now, and all of a sudden you go out and you buy yourself a mansion worth $5 or $6 million. Where'd that money come from? Don't you think that's going to be noticeable? Don't you think your opponents are going to notice that suddenly you live in this $4 or $5 million mansion? Don't you think they're going to notice that? And I don't care how rich you were when you came in, the IRS can audit you. That's why the Republicans were attacking the IRS and making it look like they were trying to protect us little guys on the bottom. And the little guys on the bottom, who's ever had any trouble with the IRS, are saying, "Yay, yay, yay! Get them, go get them, knock them out, get them out of our life, get the government out of our life." They weren't doing it for you. They were doing it for themselves. They were getting the IRS out of the way so that they could take these bribes without any problems and nobody would be able to investigate them, because you just knocked down the police department that does that. Then you get rid of the FBI and the CIA, and you start getting rid of all these law enforcement agencies. And then you take control of the military, and boom, you got it. But if you're the Koch brothers and you're sitting around with billions of dollars, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars apiece for the two Koch brothers. Last I heard they had 70 billion apiece, something like that, and I hear it's even more now. I heard they were supposed to make like 30 billion on that XL pipeline, something like that. That's what they plan to make on that deal there. But you're sitting around, and you're the Koch brothers, and you don't have nothing else to do. Can you imagine having all the money you could ever need for the rest of your life, your kids' life, your kids' kids' life? What do you think about? I mean, when we're struggling through this world, we're thinking about buying a house and a car and maybe getting our kids off to college. You get to that point, you'd like to make $1 million, and what you would do if you had $1 million or $5 million or $10 million, what you'd do with it. But what if all of your life you've always had all you've ever wanted? What do you do? What do you wish for? What do you want? I mean, you've got every kind of yacht and aeroplane and house and car and, people. You can buy people when you got that kind of money. You've got all of that. What do you want? Well, you want a country. What would be the best country to own? Can you imagine sitting in a room bigger than most of our houses and sitting there behind a desk and thinking, what do you want? And then you say, I want to own the United States of America. I want to control it. I want to control all of the people that control the United States of America. Well, that's what some of these people do. That's what they dream about. And they get 10 of them together, 15 together of these multi-billionaires, and they go to war with the government, the people in the government, like President Obama. But then again, President Obama's got a lot of power too. And if he sends the IRS after you, which is that's what a lot of them were complaining he was doing, if he sends them after you, at the end of the day, you're just one person, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. Now, if you're sitting in another country somewhere, and you're still just that one person, but that's a pretty funny way to live if you've got everything you want. It's a funny way to live. You become a fugitive. I'm a billionaire fugitive. And that'd be pretty messed up. And then again, it affects your whole family. And pretty soon, what you thought you had to protect generations is gone. It's gone. You don't have it anymore. Just because you wanted stuff like a whole country. That's what's going on in the Middle East. People want whole countries. They're little countries, but they're like diamonds. It's easier to steal a diamond than it is to steal $1 million in cash. You got to put that cash somewhere. Your pockets ain't going to be big enough to carry all of that cash, but it can carry a diamond worth, $100 million. Just put it in your pocket. Walk off.
It's 11 o'clock.
You can do that. And that's what people like the Koch brothers do. They sit around and they think about what they can get. A country. Let's see if we can take over the United States of America. It'll be fun. Come on, let's do it. And so they try it. And, if it isn't President Obama, it'll be somebody else. Even once they get into power, even once these Republicans get into power, they still have to deal with other greedy Republicans who end up, jumping the fence like Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist used to be a Republican and an independent, and now he's a Democrat. And we're hoping that he's going to be our next governor. I hope. I voted for him. Because he promised to do some of the things that I want to see, like Medicaid. President Obama promised a better way for our health care to be delivered to us by lowering our premiums. and making it so that if we were sick in the past, they can't hold it against us in the future. And like I said, lowering the premiums so that we can afford to buy insurance. You've got to pay for this. There's no way around it. You've got to pay for it somehow, some way. And for those that can't pay, we still have to have access to health care, and that's Medicaid. Charlie Crisp said he can get that for us. All we have to do is vote him in. So I voted for him. You know, you can say all the bad stuff you want about him, but I am voting for Medicaid, and Charlie Crisp says he can get that done. President Obama said he can get us affordable health care, and he did it, and I voted for him, and I would vote for him again. And the next president that comes in is going to have to come in and talk about making the healthcare system even better. Trying to get that minimum wage up there. Trying to charge the rich people more money in taxes so that we can get our infrastructure straightened out, because the working people are already overtaxed. So the only thing left to do is either cut the benefits, cut the services, or cut them profits that these corporations and rich individuals are making. Start putting that money back into the country. Like I said, you know, when you have $70 billion and constantly making more and more and more, you're a corporate oil corporation, you make $40 billion every 3 months or so. Tax-free. Not only tax-free, but you get help from the government in exploring for new oil. You get that. You got to close all them loopholes and start putting that money into the infrastructure of the United States, building more bridges, highways, making sure we've got clean water and clean air, and a new energy source. All of the things to make this country as great as it could be to live in. It's pretty nice now, in my opinion. It's pretty nice. It could be better. There's a lot of people that are struggling, that need help. And the Republicans don't want to help them. They want to help people who don't need help. That's what we have to stop. That's what we have to change. And that's what we have to vote to make sure that these people don't continue to send rich people to do their work in our government. Because a lot of the people that end up being voted in are already rich. And when you're already rich, it's a little bit easier to hide $1 million if somebody does bribe you. But still, if you get caught, you'll go down. You'll go down. Because the other team is watching. Both sides are watching the other side to making sure that you suddenly don't have a brand new mansion. That you suddenly don't live in a house worth $3 or $4 million, $5 million, $20 million, and you're only making $120,000 a year. Yeah, you were rich when you came in, and your family is rich, and yeah, they could give you that. But if they give you stuff, they want to know if there's a way that you could be taxed on that kind of gift. You just can't run around giving people $1 million, $3 million. You just can't say, "Yeah, here's $1 million." You got to report it. It's going to be taxed, unless it's under certain circumstances. You can inherit money tax-free. You can do that. That can happen. Tax-free. Your mother, your father, your husband can leave you millions of dollars tax-free. But even then, at a certain limit, you've got to pay taxes on it. It's a certain amount of money that you can get tax-free, and then other than that, you got to pay taxes. But once you've gotten that kind of money, you can pay taxes on it, believe me, and still have plenty left. So what we have to do is make sure that we vote. I'll harp on that until November 4th. Vote. And then it's over. Then it's either, crying in my beer or cheering that the people decided they'd had enough and they're done talking about it. They're not protesting anymore. They're voting for change. Not complaining their way to change. You can't complain your way to change. You've got to vote your way to change. and then we can see it happen. And the Democrats and the Republicans are different, but you have to open up your eyes and see it. Well, that does it for me on October 9th, 2014. It's 11:06, and I'll be rebroadcasting this on our live stream channel. I keep forgetting to say that, but hey, I'm not a professional. I'm just a guy talking here. So I'm Artstarzz, and that's just my opinion. Have a good day.